Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 4 of season 2 of The Legend of Korra, called Civil Wars Part 2. And here we have it, the kind of the resolution of the building tension that's been happening since the start of the series, and what we're looking at looks like a full-fledged kickoff to the Water Tribe's Civil War. And I have to say, this episode was pretty reasonably well executed. Now, looking at Unalaq here, things with him really come to a head. And what I like is really until the revelation from the crooked judge that he'd been acting under Unalaq's orders, what the show had done is that in presenting everything that he had been doing as plausibly reasonable. You just weren't sure 100% as to whether or not Unalaq was genuinely being kind of a bad guy, or if he was just somebody with good intentions who was maybe pushing things a little too far. Well, here that question is undoubtedly answered, in that Unalaq really was just manipulating everything, and that not only that, but he was the one who engineered his brother getting exiled from the North Pole. So once again, Korra has found herself tricked and manipulated by an older waterbender guy who has a interestingly similar haircut to the last older waterbender guy to do this to her. And you know what? Katara was also tricked by an older waterbender. Maybe the Water Tribe folks are just a little bit too eager to maybe trust their own kind. Then again, after 100 years of being at war with the Fire Nation and stuff, well, solidarity probably would be a pretty strong trait among the Water Tribe. And yet we've seen that in this episode quite clearly that there's also some pretty serious divisions and tension between them. Something to think on, huh? Anyway, well, let's kind of get into it. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this whole Eska Bolin situation. If I can sort of dive into the subplots briefly. I mean, I'm certainly enjoying Aubrey Plaza as Eska. She's really doing a really nice job there, especially seeing as how she's really kept that sort of flat monotone the whole time. So that she's done so much with just that tone of voice really is a testament to her acting abilities. But really, what's going on with Bolin there in my book is actually something of an example of kind of a greater problem with this that's going on with this season. And I have to say that so far, I really would consider it the biggest problem with the show now that it's in its second season. And it's that Asami, Mako, and Bolin have really been related to second banana status. I mean, we haven't even seen, what was it, episode 2? We didn't even see Asami. And while Mako did get to have some nice discussion with Korra, the whole supportive boyfriend thing, that was some good stuff. But apart from that, really, Asami, Bolin, and Mako have really kind of been getting the short end of the stick in terms of characterization. Now, granted, this is for a reasonable reason. Here we have to introduce, a whole bunch of new characters. We have to really flesh out Korra's parents, who we didn't get to really know last season. We've got Unalaq, we've got Varric, we've got Eska and her brother. So again, a lot of new characters are taking the stage, and they all have to have time to grow and for us to get to know them and care about them, understand their points of view and what it is they're doing. But you can't really let Team Avatar sit on the sidelines for so long without the show suffering a little bit. But now that we're kind of out of the South Pole and things are a little bit different, I have a feeling those characters are going to kind of come back into the forefront more, which is definitely a good part of it's definitely good for the show. And just to kind of speaking of what's going on with them, you really have to wonder, why in the world did Varric choose Bolin to be the one to carry out the whole bribery scheme? And now Varric and Bolin seem to have hit it off, but one, he knows he's basically introduced Bolin as Asami's assistant. And given the way that Asami reacts to how Bolin's completely and utterly failed to properly use that bribe money in any useful way, it really seems like she would have been the one that Varric should have trusted with that money. And as a savvy businessman, you'd think that Varric would have realized this. Also, Asami didn't even raise the tiniest bit of moral objection to bribing a judge. Um, hmm. Maybe she learned a little bit about the shady side of doing business from her dad, huh? Something to think about, huh, folks? Something to think about. Then again, Toph in the original show, and even Katara were not above doing the occasional bit of rigged gambling. So, well, I guess you can't really blame Judge Team Avatar too much for occasionally bending the rules, especially in a situation that ultimately turned out to be a show trial. It was all about Unalaq manipulating Korra. Anyway, getting on to other matters. What I really like about this episode, though, is that there's also a strong theme that's going on here. And of course, like we've seen so far in this episode, that theme is family. Here we see Korra's family really getting torn apart. You know, her dad learns that his own brother set him up to be exiled. Korra has learned that her own uncle has been manipulating her, and even goes so far as to fight her. And of course, completely gets his butt kicked because, let's face it, if you're a waterbender and you're trying to take on the Avatar, who is also a waterbender, you're challenging the Avatar in their native element. And, unless you can suddenly pull blood bending out of your butt, that is not going to work out too well. Especially if said Avatar happens to have some help along with him. So yes, really brilliant move there, Unalaq. I can't believe you actually tried to win that fight. Jeez. Anyway, but as I said, here in this episode we see Korra's family getting torn apart, but yet at the same time we see Tenzin's family coming together. And Tenzin really does deliver a great it's actually Jinora, I'm sorry, who makes a really great observation that, families can kind of be a pain in the butt, that you might always get on with them, but they're also the people who are most likely to always be there for you. So, as one family comes together, another is ripped apart, probably forever. You see, it's parallels like that that are a hallmark of really, really good storytelling. And if you pay attention, you see this all the time in well-written stories. I mean, to give an example, sometimes it's done very heavy-handedly, sometimes not so much. Like, for example, if you wanted a little bit more heavy-handed example, you could say, someone in a story dies at the same time that a baby is born. I mean, I'm sure we can all think of a time or two when we've seen that. But it can even be simpler as that, such as in one of the characters, something really bad happens in their life, and yet another character, something happens in their life that is really good. Again, parallels. And it just does, doing that shows contrast within the story, and it kind of helps keep the tone of the story of what's going on shifting around. If everything's always happy, 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 or crappy, 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 then, it gets a little old. In fact, it gets old pretty darn fast. If you mix things with highs and lows, then the story is going to be much, much more interesting. And also, frankly, just more realistic. Life is a series of highs and lows. Now, some of us have more highs, and some of us have more lows, but c'est la vie, right? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Now, what I'm interested in here is that you notice that Korra once again kind of uses the Avatar state as sort of that nitrous oxide, that super boost moment. Now, while he has been manipulating her, you have to think that Unalaq probably was actually telling the Korra the truth about the whole thing with the spirits. And wouldn't it be interesting if Korra, continues to use the Avatar state as a toy and ends up doing exactly what he warned her might happen? The bad guy was right. And even more interesting, what would happen if Korra ultimately ended up needing his help in order to set things right? Certainly would be dramatic. Could even set the stage for a seemingly impossible coming together of family. I mean, look at the way we saw two brothers come together at the end of last season. Pretty unforgettable, huh? And now You've got 2 more brothers. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, folks, that's really all I have for you this time around. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.